And we'll get started now. So we have some questions, some that came in from yesterday online and some that we have from retreat here. So one that came from Denmark, from Maya. She said, Jess has referred to inspirational reading of great meditators. Would it be possible that you could recommend a few titles or names to read? Yeah. There's agreement from the audience. Good question. I think Blazing Splendor is a really wonderful book. It's about Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche and his life, and that was Mingyur Rinpoche's father. It's a really great book. There's one chapter in there about the nuns, Tsoknyi Rinpoche's nuns and Nangchen, which I really love too. So I'm always looking for stories of inspirational nuns and women as a woman practitioner. But it's a wonderful book. For me, A Cave in the Snow about Tetsuma Tenzin Palmo's life changed my life. I love that book. I loved it so much that I wrote her a letter, and that's how I got to know her, and that's how I ended up being able to do a retreat in her cave. And so it really changed my life, so watch out. Obviously lots of people have really enjoyed that book. There's some more traditional books, like if you're into Buddhism and into some of the more traditional stories, like The Life of Milarepa is a classic book of one of the founders of our lineage, and about a great yogi, very famous in Tibet. And there's also there's a very good book about Yongey Mingyur Rinpoche's first life as Yongey Mingyur Rinpoche called Chariot of the Fortunate, I think. Oh, yeah, it's really good. But it's more like, it's a different time and a different culture. So maybe you're interested and maybe not, and that's okay. I love reading about my teachers. I was a student of Khenpo Kartar Rinpoche, who was a teacher at KTD, and there's a book about his life, Amrita of Eloquence. It's a good book. So anyway, there's many. Brilliant Moon about Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. So here at Karuna Retreat Center, there's a special connection with Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. And he was absolutely amazing teacher. And there's a wonderful book about his life and a film. So yeah, books and films about great yogis and meditators really, some of them have really changed my life, because you read them and then they really give you a lot of inspiration, for me anyway. So yeah, there's a few. Okay, I could go on for a long time. So feel free to email me. There's a story.
Okay, so a question here. Are there any Tergar programs for children and adolescents to teach them meditation, help them deal with stress and pain? And Amy Roth in Chicago developed a program around families and children. So both families and children. And you could write her at Amy, A-M-Y, at tergar.org. So likewise, I don't know if you have other recommendations in terms of...
I think that's the best place to start. Amy's so wonderful, and she's spent a lot of time working with Rinpoche also on this program, and I know she'd be delighted to hear from you if you were interested. So she'd be a great place to start.
Then on the other end of the aging spectrum, we speak a lot about the problems of our busy lives and stress of rushing all the time. What about aging? People who live in isolation, limited, and many times lost. Are there any programs for these people or to work with them? So if you want to email me, I could put you in touch with somebody who is developing a program for the aging. And I'm at Kell, at tergar.org. Do you know of any in particular?
No.
So I could help with that. So here's one around healthcare. How do you prevent zoning out as a protective mechanism when there's difficult emotions on a constant all the time in a healthcare setting? I've seen the best doctors have Asperger's. The longer you work in hospital, the less emotional you have to be, less empathy. So since I worked in a hospital system and trained doctors and nurses and other health professionals, I thought a lot about this issue. I have to say, I've met many doctors who have kept their sense of caring, their sense of empathy and compassion. But what I want to emphasize, and whenever I do a training for health professionals, I always emphasize the difference between empathy and compassion. The neuroscientists have a very simple and yet incredibly profound and effective way of distinguishing these two. So empathy is simply the ability to feel what another person is feeling. If you're sad, I feel the sadness. If you're happy, I feel the happiness. If you're angry, I feel the anger. And what the neuroscientists noticed is that the person who's feeling sad, a certain part of their brain lights up. The person who has empathy for them, that same sadness part of the brain lights up. Compassion is completely different. Compassion is the active wish to alleviate suffering. It actually has nothing to do with feeling what the other person is feeling. It's just wanting to alleviate that suffering, whether it's your own or that of another person. Now, often empathy will open the doorway to compassion. So we have a little bit of empathy, we feel what that person is feeling, and then we move into compassion where we're no longer feeling that problematic emotion. So it's extremely important for health professionals to know the difference between empathy and compassion, to keep empathy alive, but not to spend much time there, because empathy can be very exhausting. It can lead to burnout. So the key for health professionals, don't spend much time in empathy, but don't let it die. Spend a lot of time in compassion, which doesn't burn you out, actually. So that's the short answer. If you want more, email me.
Yeah, you couldn't have asked a better person. Okay, so that was all our questions. So now I want to talk a little bit about coming out of silence. And we came out of silence a couple hours ago, and everyone here already heard a little bit, but really this week we've been sort of going through all the tools and skills you need to do your own retreat at home also, or wherever you want. And so coming out of silence is an important step that we take at the end of retreat. And of course, if you've been alone in solitary retreat, coming out of silence just means coming back home. But in a community, we decide together when we want to hold the silence and when we want to lift it. And with coming out of silence, I shared earlier with the group here, we bring in the same qualities that Cal was talking yesterday about being present, noticing what's happening, noticing your experience, noticing other people. When we're in silence, there's kind of this such an inward focus, and suddenly now other people kind of come into view. And so we can notice that experience. It's important to be really kind to yourself about just whatever's coming up often there can be a lot of different feelings. Sometimes it feels wonderful to come out of silence, and sometimes it can feel a bit scary. Or, just we can have the whole gamut of ups or downs as silence is ending. Sometimes there's a sadness, a sense of loss. Like, I was really loving this silent retreat, and now it's ending, and everyone's so loud, and it's gone. And so it's okay. Like, we can be kind to that feeling, be kind to the loss. It is a kind of loss, but also a new opportunity. Always as something is ending, there's something else beginning. And then curiosity, just being curious about the experience, noticing it, having curiosity about your speech, what you share, what you don't share, how you're feeling. So all of these things really work together. Sometimes we feel overstimulated after retreat. I know after I spent 5 months without seeing anybody, I came out of retreat and I felt like everything was really intense and overstimulating. And so I spent a week, like I came out of retreat and I visited with people, and then I went and I was alone again. And then I went to town, and then I went back. So like giving yourself some buffer, especially, we're doing that here by lifting the silence before the retreat ends. And that was very deliberate, that we don't just lift the silence and then bye, but we lift it a little bit before, so we have a little bit of space, like a bit of a buffer to adjust and start to feel, talk. And it's quite important. So if you're doing solitary retreat at home for a week, even when you come back, don't make plans maybe to go to I don't know, a big party that night, right? Go home, quiet night with your partner and your dog or whatever, and slowly, make the party plans later in the week. It's best if you can. Of course, if you can't, the wedding is that day, you got to go, then you go and you just practice with intense experience, and that's okay too. So you can practice over time. As we practice more and more, we can hold more and more. Ultimately it's all okay as long as we can be aware, kind. We're not overloaded, so we just keep finding that balance. So I think that's all about silence.
Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about preparing to leave the retreat. So it's important not to leave mentally and emotionally before you actually leave physically. So our retreat doesn't actually end until 12:30 tomorrow. And we're still keeping the outer, the inner, and the secret retreat boundaries. We'll be meditating tomorrow. We'll be processing together some of the experiences we've had while on retreat. But this is very much still part of the retreat. We're still in a safe container. We still are holding our secret retreat, our intention of why we're here. So give yourself this retreat until it's actually over. That also relates in terms of our body and speech, especially our inner speech, not focusing too much on what's going to happen afterwards, really keeping our awareness grounded here in our experience together at Karuna or wherever you're on retreat, so that we're not spending all of our time thinking about, oh, I'm going to do this tomorrow, and oh, I've got to call that person, that we're still mentally here as well as physically. And as Jess emphasized, being gentle with yourself is really important. When we start to talk, it can be quite exciting. Um, and we can get maybe a little overstimulated. So just to really take it easy and keep that intention of holding yourself with kindness and wisdom, so that if you feel yourself getting really, really excited, just like pat yourself on the shoulder and calm down a little bit. Yeah. Okay.
Come back into your body, feel the ground, like all the steps we talked about of kind of like grounding yourself, because we can get up here. So next is dedicating the practice. So we always talk about three things, and actually I have a funny story. So when I was getting ready to go do my first 2-month retreat, I'd done like a week at a time, and I was going to do a 2-month retreat. And I was at the Kagyu Munlam in India, which is like 10,000 Buddhists coming together to do prayers for the whole week. And there was like 100 reincarnate lamas or something. Like there's just teachers everywhere. And so I was going to meet with different teachers to ask for advice about how to do retreat. And 3 of them said the same thing. And they all said in the beginning, like something variations on the theme, but it was all like, make sure you set your intention. It's so important that your intention is good and that you really think about why you're doing this, and you're doing it for all sentient beings, and make your intention as vast as you can. And then in the middle, do your main practice, whatever it is. Could be anything. And our retreat has been such a beautiful example of that. We're all doing our own practice. And in the end, dedicate. It's very important. So it was like, it just got really rooted in my brain. Okay, these 3 things. And it's true of actually every practice we do, every day, every time we sit down, having these 3 pieces, we're going in the right direction. And so in the end, it's really important to take everything you've done and to really spend some time thinking about all the virtue of your own practice, but also rejoicing and appreciating all the causes and conditions and all the people that made your retreat possible, all the good things that came together, yourself and other people, and even your good intention, everyone's good intention. So when we're practicing together, it's like we're actually all sort of, sometimes they talk about like multiplying the merit, like, so everybody's good merit, all the people who supported us, everybody, you can imagine like sending this out into the world. And some people really connect with like visual imagination, like light in every direction. May it reach all beings. And some people really connect with the speech, the words, like may all beings benefit. And we have such a beautiful dedication prayer that Mingyur Rinpoche wrote that we can all connect with. And then there's the mind, like just your feeling. And some people really, it's mostly about the feeling, just a sense of like, dedicate this to the well-being and the happiness, the joy, that all beings will recognize their innate well-being, their awareness, love, compassion, wisdom. So it's very important. And if you're doing your own retreat, and if you are Buddhist, this is the time to do lots of aspiration prayers, lots of dedications. If you have like, you know, a book of them, do lots. Like, why not? This is the time. So at the end of, you know, each day we dedicate, but then at the end it's like everything's coming to fruition and you give it away. And there's a couple metaphors that really have helped me about this. One is like, when we dedicate the practice, it's like whatever we've done, you can imagine it's like a drop of water in the ocean. It's a drop of water towards your aspiration being fulfilled. And if you leave the drop of water just sitting there, then the sun might come, the wind might come, it can like dissipate. But if you put it into the ocean, then it will never be lost. And dedication's a bit like that. And I've always really loved that metaphor, this feeling of like, I'm putting it into the ocean. And it's also really important because for our minds, I think, to not cling on, like holding it, and to really kind of feel like you've given it away. So it's not really yours anymore. It is and it isn't. You've given it to all sentient beings throughout space and time. So you can kind of let it go and feel like it's moving towards your aspiration. And then we start again. So yeah. Anything to add to that?
That's great. So I'm going to talk a little bit about bringing practice into your life. So you want the momentum of the retreat to flow into your life, the good things that you got here, to really not stay here, but to flow into your life, both in formal practice and informal practice. So just as before we do retreat, we begin practicing a little more to begin to get ready for retreat. So after retreat, you might want to practice more than usual before you kind of get back to your normal daily practice. Certainly, as you re-enter life, take it easy, don't rush, go slow, but also it's a great opportunity for informal practice. And, the book that Mingyur Rinpoche and Helen Twerkhoff wrote about his first few weeks on his wandering retreat, where he's practicing in the flow of life. And he talks extensively about how he practices in the flow of life. That might be a great book to read if you don't have a copy or haven't read it already.
It's a good book.
It's called In Love with the World. And amongst journey with living and dying and thinking, but in love with the world. And it's just got tremendously rich tips for informal practice. So as soon as you get into the world, it's an opportunity to take your practice with you and practice informally as well as formally. Certainly as challenges arise, remember your practice. It's amazing. Sometimes just a few seconds of meditative awareness when a challenging emotion arises during the day, or you see something that's a problem on TV or in the newspaper, or you hear about a friend who's suffering, it's just begin to get in the habit of using all of these for practice. It's also important to remember that all the other people you're encountering, your family and friends, were not on retreat. They won't understand necessarily. Some of them might, but many of them won't. So be patient with them. Don't expect them to really know exactly where you are and how wonderful this was and the riches you got from it. They may not really be able to relate very well. So just hold that with kindness and curiosity and compassion.
Yeah. I think along those lines, Antonia mentioned this last week we taught a Joy of Living 2 together, and near the end she said, and I've heard this before, like sometimes you want to be a little bit careful about what you share and what you don't share. Sometimes when you have a very personal kind of profound experience and you share with someone who maybe doesn't understand, has never done meditation, and they're like, well, that sounds stupid. That's weird, or that's kind of dumb. It can kind of like it like impacts your memory of that experience and your own practice. So I think it's okay to be a little bit careful about what you share and with whom about your experience with practice, because we're so sensitive and our memories are like changed by the way that we remember them and the impact of other people kind of saying something about it. So I think that's just worth keeping in mind. Yeah. Okay. So finally, I wanted to share some inspiring words. And I wanted to read this from Mingyur Rinpoche's letter when he was going away on wandering retreat. I'm not going to read the whole letter, it was quite long, but there is this part at the end that always really gets me. He says, in parting, I'd like to give you one small piece of advice to keep in your heart. You may have heard me say this before, but it's the key point of the entire path, so it bears repeating. All that we are looking for in life, all the happiness, contentment, and peace of mind is right here in the present moment. Our very own awareness is itself fundamentally pure and good. The only problem is that we get so caught up in the ups and downs of life that we don't take the time to pause and notice what we already have. So I really felt that this was a good time to reflect on this beautiful quote, because I think retreat gives us this opportunity to pause and reflect and notice it's all here. And, normally in life, we're constantly distracted and looking outside to make everything good somehow out here. And in retreat, we turn off all those things and we kind of put up these boundaries. We say, no, it's going to be here for this week. It's here. And then, wow, it really is right here. And so as we move back into life, and this is a reminder to myself too, to try to keep giving yourself opportunities to pause and look inside. And in those moments where you feel anxious, distracted, sad, and you're looking out here for something to satisfy that discomfort, to just, maybe even for 5 seconds, well, maybe I can just be. Or maybe instead of reading my phone and the news while I'm eating breakfast, I can just sit and eat breakfast. And so that's what I wanted to remind myself and all of us. And I also wanted to say a little bit about practice and doing more retreat. I think sometimes when we come out of retreat, certainly for me, we've gone from you practicing all day, every day, and you go home and you think, oh, I only have 20 minutes. What's the point? It's not 6 hours like I had yesterday, but even that 20 minutes is so worthwhile. Like, don't forget short times, many times. It adds up slowly, and we have to appreciate every moment that we have to practice, and not think, oh, it's so short, it doesn't matter. I only have 10 minutes. Who cares? Like, better I just won't do it at all. I'm just gonna read Facebook again. I've done that. Please don't do that. Because if we do that every time, then slowly life goes by, and we're really, the lazy mind is just so, it gets me all the time. try not to be lazy. It's hard, but you'll appreciate yourself for not doing it. And then with retreat, you know, we've had like the perfect circumstances here, like the perfect weather, the perfect people, the perfect place, the perfect food, this incredible view and incredible friends and the schedule. Everything's been so easy, good. And so you can think, oh, my retreat's not like that one. So what's the point? You know, if I do retreat at home, it's not as good as when I do it with everybody else. So I'm just not going to do it, you know? So please don't do that. Like, again, you can do retreat for half a day in your house. Like, just decide I'm going to do retreat until noon. In fact, I don't know what Mingyur Rinpoche does now, but when I was in India and first met him, that was his lifestyle, was like in the morning, no visitors, nobody until lunchtime. And he would do retreat in the morning and every day, I think. I don't know. Now I think he's quite busy, but it's a really nice thing to do. And it's amazing how much you can accomplish before lunch, just doing nothing, doing your practice. So can make it simple, and you can do a day, you can do a weekend, you can rent, like just go somewhere, a hotel, Airbnb, you know, like, so when we have the perfect conditions, of course, wonderful. But when we have less than ideal conditions, just include that in the practice and we do what we can. Maybe there's really busy, you know, we talked about silence. Maybe this place is super loud. Be with sound, meditate with sound. So I think that's one of the beautiful things about Mingyur Rinpoche's teaching is he's always like, what's the problem? Okay, awareness with that problem. You know, it's like no problem anymore. So yeah, it's really good to remember. I think the main thing I wanted to say too about when you decide to do a retreat, it's really important to stick with it if you can. So better to do a short one and say, okay, I'm going to do half a day. I'm going to see how it goes, but I'm going to stick to that half a day and decide what those retreat boundaries are going to be. Like, okay, for this half a day, I'm not going to leave this house, or maybe, you know, like this area, it's outer boundary. I'm going to turn off my phone. I'm not going to be on my email or phone for half a day. I'm just going to practice, and my intention is that this benefit all beings. And so keep it, you know, if you start to say to yourself, oh yeah, half a day, but then like halfway through the day, you're like, I don't know, it wasn't going very well, so I'm going to give up. I think it's hard on our system. It's like, it's better to plan short and get to the end and go, I did it. I said 2 hours and I did 2 hours. And then the next time we can go a little bit longer, just like we do with our formal practice. If we say 10 minutes, we do 10 minutes. You know, I think it's good for our minds, and that way we develop confidence in our own capacity. So anything you want to add before we move on? Okay. So now we're at thank yous. So lots of thank yous. Mostly, I want to thank everyone here, especially for coming, for having the courage and to come and do retreat with these weird people you don't know in this place. Some of you have been to many times, and some of you have never been to. A lot of unknowns, like what's this going to be? We've never done a retreat like this before, so we don't even know what it's going to be. We had some idea, we made a schedule, but so thank you for coming, and thank you for making it so so meaningful and holding it with such integrity, and could just feel everyone's practice. It was so beautiful, and I felt like we really together exemplify this beautiful balance of not too tight, not too loose. It felt very easy and spacious, but also like we were all practicing. And so it was really wonderful. So thank you. And thank you everyone online for joining us in the evenings. And thank you, Cal, for coming. And I want to thank Danny, who's online with us, but not here in person because she had to go home. But Danny has been working so hard for many, many months to make this possible. And we've been a team. And so couldn't have done this without Danny. And she would really help make our online Zoom happen, and our video camera and everything. And the translation, I want to thank our translator, amazing Gustavo, who's in Brazil. It's amazing technology. Here we are. Somehow I'm talking, he's translating in Brazil, and you're hearing it right here. It's amazing. Thank you. You're getting many thank yous, Gustavo, from the team and here. And I know, okay, Mark from Holland says hello, Gustavo. And we had many people from our Portuguese community listening online. So it was really wonderful. Thank you for joining us. And I want to thank also Anna, who has been really caring for us so well, and all the volunteers and staff here at Karuna and taking care of us so well. Like there's so much love in the food and the care and tenderness and respect for our practice and joy, appreciation of our practice. And it's just, it couldn't be more welcoming here. So she's not here, but thanks, Anna. And finally, you know, Tergar Retreats, you know, is really a very small group of people. We're a very small.
And it's very new.
It's very new.
Very new.
And very small. And you know, in January, Matt, who's our director, Matt Zumwalt had met Anna last year when Rinpoche was visiting, and they talked about doing these retreats, and he asked me to come and help, and it's been an honor and privilege. And really, it's all of this has come together from like a small group of volunteers who really care about this vision of having more retreats in the Tergar lineage, and people willing to help out. And we've had someone design our website, and we're working on a lot of little things, but we couldn't have done this without Matt and all the people who've donated to Tergar retreats to sort of help this vision start. You know, without some seed funding, it's hard to get these things off the ground because you don't know if anyone's going to come. And so to have someone say, well, if no one comes, we'll still pay for the expenses, you know. And so we're really very fortunate that Tergar Retreats is coming into being, and that so many people believe and care about this vision of. And I think, I mean, for those who aren't here, I can really say, having just completed 3 of our very first retreats, I feel like, wow, couldn't have got any better. I feel so excited for these Tergar retreats, because it just, every week has been so heartwarming and meaningful to see how these teachings come alive when we practice them in retreat. And, you know, we've had people who did, I think Marky said it was the 5th time doing Joy of Living 2 or something, 5th time. And it's like, wow, like doing it, like suddenly, wow, it's suddenly coming alive. And to do retreat this week was so amazing. I just feel like what a blessing to just practice together. And and to see how, each of you that I've spoken with so far, how it really was so meaningful in your practice life. And so I'm very excited to do more. And we will be doing a month-long retreat in September. Joy Living 1, 2, 3, and all the homework in 1 month, starting in mid-September. So if you want to come, please come. And also, I do need to say, if you do want to make a donation to take our retreats, please do. We could really use your support, and it will go towards helping make these programs possible, and also build our 3-year retreat center, which is Matt's main project. So a 3-year retreat center. Yeah, it's going to be in Pudentes. It's just north of Lisbon, so in northern. And there'll be spaces for shorter term retreats there as well. So it's going to be a 3-year retreat center, as well as a retreat center, place for retreat in the Tergar lineage. And the other thing we could really use help with is your marketing help. So following us on Facebook, following us on Instagram, liking our posts, sharing it with your friends, sign up for our newsletter. To be completely transparent, mostly it's just me. Like, hello, so please, I could use your help. I'm like not very good at this, and neither is Kels.
I'm not on social media, so I'm useless.
We're true people, right? So we're like, oh, social media. I turned that off last week. Like, you put us on marketing. We're like, oh no. So please help us. And yeah, that we're gonna put these talks on YouTube, so you can also share these talks. So we're trying to get the word out about Tergar retreats, so that other people who want to come find out we're here. That's the motivation. And hopefully many people will get to enjoy this place and retreats in the future. And so that's it. We're gonna take yeah, why don't you say it so that everyone can hear on Zoom? You can just talk.
Sure.
It's the microphone.
All right. Well, to you and Carol, I would like to thank you very much. It has been so wonderful having this space of practicing. And I've missed that in my own life the last years. I went to retreats with Mingyur Rinpoche, and they were concise and okay, you go home and do your homework. And I did. But it's so different now. I did 2 weeks now with 1 week on love and compassion. Wow, I realized things I never. You have to keep short or what?
I'm just turning the video on so
Okay.
people can see.
So I realized things I never realized before, and it's because of you, Jess, because you started the whole thing. I think together with you were here, and so having time is so it can sink in. And now the second week, so with you, with Cal, oh, again, you were so friendly. You were so human with us. I think so. Flexible, and you can lay down. You can go to the forest, but you kept the structure and like that. And I felt your wisdom, both of you. I think so held in your experience, both of you. It supported me, and I see people nodding. So I'm very, very grateful for this opportunity. That speaks for everybody. So we make an applause. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So
Maybe we should just practice.
we should just sit. Yeah. So we'll sit for 15 minutes, and Mm. So finding your meditation posture. We'll practice for 15 minutes. as we move into doing the final dedication, you can bring to mind all the merit that we've accumulated here together this week, as we talked about earlier. Bring to mind all the well-being, goodness, good intentions of yourself and all the people here, online, all the people who made it possible for us to come. It includes so many infinite beings, actually. We're all connected. So really rejoicing, appreciating your own good aspirations, that of others, their good qualities, your own good qualities. We can imagine dedicating that to all beings. And with that in mind, we'll say the closing dedication. By the power of this compassionate practice, may suffering be transformed into peace. May the hearts of all beings be open, and their wisdom radiate from within. So, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. There's lots of nice messages here online, too. Lots of thank yous. So, yeah, thank you, thank you. Thanks for being here. Hi, friends. Hi, new friends and old friends. Yeah.
Wow.
Here, we'll put it on gallery view. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll turn it around so you guys can see too. If you want to turn your video on, I'll show you the group. You want to say hi? Okay, we'll say. Hello. Hello. Everyone's waving.